Okay, so we're going to take a look at Gabiria Legazpi. Now you might be thinking, wait a second, this was released a long time ago. And you'd be right. But that was for Richard Burns Rally. And now we're going to take a look at it for Assetto Corsa. I'll put the link in the description below, but we're going to take a drive through it, not aggressively, but I also want to talk about some things relating to WRC. You know, oddly enough, besides like some of the grass on the sides here, this doesn't look as good as Richard Burns Rally, which is kind of interesting. It doesn't look as real. So I do want to talk about, WRC. You know, Codemasters, as you all know, lost the license. It's not necessarily a bad thing. The last game, it's good. It's a rally game. I can recommend it to people, especially like newer users. Which is honestly, hey, my hood actually peeled up. Which is honestly something that I would say is a good thing. It's a game that I can recommend to people that have little to no experience with rally, and they can probably do well on their first, foray into rally. You know, like it doesn't have to be this brutal thing where you just get crashing every 5 seconds. I mean, they're gonna crash no matter what. Like I still crash in the game all the time. I'm just saying, like, it can be discouraging if a game is so brutal that it doesn't let you continue after you crash. It's not what I would consider a realistic game in a lot of ways. Assetto Corsa, physics-wise, is a pretty hardcore sim. Richard Burns Rally, of course. BeamNG, you know these games I talk about all the time. Assetto Corsa Evo will be that game, at some point in the future, but we still just don't have a really serious rally game besides Richard Burns Rally, but that was an old game. It's still our best hope for something that looks somewhat decent, in terms of like an experience that you can take from the game and apply it to real life in some ways, and then also, just kind of get your feet under you, really learn the ropes in a way that's just absolutely brutal, to where you're like, okay, I get this, I get the message. If I mess up, everything's over. If you don't pace yourself, if you don't pay attention to your co-driver, or if you don't pay attention to some cues from the road, that's kind of cool. Well, that's kind of impressive, actually, that guy waving that thing. I like the flash photography as well. You just really want something to drive it home that, like, your mistakes count for something. It really matters. And in WRC, EA WRC, you don't feel that. You don't feel like your mistakes count for how much they should. You could, of course, destroy your car to the point to where it's miserable to drive, but it's really hard to total your car, and it's really hard to get it to that point. You have to really almost try. The WRC said that they're going to try to go a different direction. They're going to do something different. Maybe they see that simulation racing in general is taking off to the point to where it's becoming popular, people know about it. Maybe they're going to take it more serious and be like, you know what, let's treat this as a breeding ground. That sounds kind of dirty. The crops, our new crops. A place that we can reliably source potentially awesome drivers. This port, by the way, is awesome. I'm not trying to take away from it at all. And it's nice that the road continues to go like this, but I do think it looks better in a lot of ways in Richard Burns Rally, which is very strange to me. Oh, wow, okay. So that's where it ends. So my point is, this might be an indicator that they're going to take things more seriously this time. The audience has spoken. We want something serious. We want something that truly represents the sport. We don't want something that kind of sugarcoats things. We want something that to show the raw grittiness of rally. When was the last time you felt like a truly raw experience from a rally title? For me, it was probably Dirt Rally 1. Like the first one, that felt like a truly, it felt like a passion project. I think maybe Sebastian Loeb Evo, or Evo, however they pronounce it over there, that kind of felt like a serious attempt at, replicating some rally stuff as well. I'd say it dropped the ball in a lot of ways. It was kind of like a boring game, but it felt kind of raw. Dirt Rally 2.0, that game it's a great game, but it felt too polished. It felt too glammy and glitzy, to me at least. It just didn't give me that raw feeling. Now, I will say Dirt Rally 1, physics-wise and damage-wise, it wasn't what it should have been. But just like the overall vibe you got when you played the game, like it really kind of... to me, it felt like how rally feels in my head when I think about it. It's a hard thing to capture, obviously, because otherwise a bunch of developers would have been able to achieve it. There's a lot of limitations that certain studios have. You know, Codemaster's recent attempt, the challenge I think was budgeting. You know, EA obtained them. I don't know the full story. I have some little bit of inside track on things, but I don't really know. I mean, I wasn't part of the team. I wish someone from the team that got fired, I mean, they probably signed like an NDA or something like that, but when they got let go, I wish one of those people would like reach out to me and be like, hey, this is why things ended up like this. Because there were so many questionable choices when I look at that game, where I'm like, just like, why did you do this like this? You know, was it just because I didn't have enough time to finish? Was it because we were told from higher ups this is how it has to be, otherwise it's not going to get released? You know, what's the real story here? It just didn't feel like a passion project like Dirt Rally 1. And Dirt Rally 2 even had a lot of aspects of it that were just like, you really love what you're doing. EA WRC, it never got to that point where it was a polished gem, I don't think. Like, it still feels unfinished in a lot of ways. Even though it's a really complete experience when it comes to the amount of content. You know, there's a lot of stages, there's a lot of, well, I guess you could argue that there's not really a lot of stages, but there's a lot of content. It feels like a lot, at least. Cars that you'd expect in there. There's a lot of hard work that was put into the game, clearly. And I don't, people get confused about that. Like, I'm not taking away from that, but it just never felt like it reached its full potential. And I don't feel like it ever will, unfortunately. And now that the project is dead, and EA has pretty much decided that Codemaster is gonna, from what I'm understanding, is just only make F1 games. Which, I get it, F1 is crazy popular, like everyone knows what F1 is. People that aren't like super into racing know what F1 is. Basically what I'm saying here is I think it's not necessarily a bad thing that Codemasters no longer has the license. I was excited when I first heard it. When I was like, oh my gosh, Codemasters, they have the license. You know, the game that, you know, really sparked or re-sparked my interest back into Rally. You know, I'd loved Rally since I was a little kid. You know, I had the WRC 1 on PS2. That was my first, like, Rally game where I was, like, truly just, oh my god, I'm really into this. You know, back when the internet was not really something that was in everyone's household. Like, we had the internet back then, but it took probably like 15 minutes to load a single page. Not even like a page where you could scroll, just a single picture. And you probably know what pictures I'm talking about. Blanket over the monitor at night kind of thing. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so now we're in Richard Burns Rally. Yeah, this to me just looks better. Like, everything about this looks more realistic to me. Maybe not the grass doesn't look anywhere near as good in this game. But yeah, this looks way better. Shading looks a lot better. Colors, just everything looks better. Tell me in the comments if you agree. I'm kind of excited, basically, is what I'm saying. I'm excited that Codemasters no longer has the license. And I'm sorry to the team if any of you are watching this. I do appreciate your hard work when it comes to Rally, but I feel like whatever was left of the original team, I don't feel like it was enough to really accomplish the goal of just achieving the ultimate Rally game. I'm sure in their hearts, they wanted to make the absolute best product they could. So in my opinion, it's the healthier option to just kind of start with another company. You know, Kyloton, they did all right in the end. I was very disappointed with them up until like Generations. Maybe like 9 or 10, I was kind of getting impressed by what they were doing. But for the most part, I was disappointed by them a lot. I don't think any one company yet has really blown it out of the park when it comes to the WRC license. But I think technology-wise, I think we're at the point today something truly great can be achieved now. You can almost have one person develop a game a team of 100 could do back in the, you know, the older days, because the tools just weren't there. So now that we have these powerful tools, these insane game engines that like make it easier and quicker to develop the game that you envision, we're in a really good place where we could actually make something truly great happen that really feels convincingly as close to Rally as possible without like, you know, smelling dirt. I think we're there. Visually and gear-wise, we can experience, you know, enough sensations to where we're like, damn, this is raw. This feels so realistic. I read somewhere on, I think it was Lawrence de Soswa. I always pronounce his name wrong, so My apologies, Lawrence, if I'm saying that wrong, but people know who I'm talking about. Really great guy. He had mentioned, wouldn't it be great if iRacing obtained the WRC license? And in my head, I was like, okay, well, it'd be great in one way that, you know, iRacing would take it seriously. They would focus on physics and damage. That would be great, but, you know, from a pricing model, that means you're going to have to buy every single stage independently. Maybe even have to pay, like, a fee to enter every event. Like, you know, and then I said, and then you'd have to pay to get your car repaired with real money. You know, your virtual car. I guarantee they would pull something like that. But I was thinking about it, and someone said, like, wouldn't it be great if BeamNG got the license? And I'm like, oh my gosh. That would be great. Not only could they, you know, work with Toyota, or at least the big three. They could work with the big three for the Rally 1 cars, and, you know, Rally 2, or whatever car classes they'd implement. They could work with those specific manufacturers and be like, listen, this is BeamNG, the cars are gonna get destroyed, work with us, right? That would be like an absolute godsend for rally simulation. It would be the absolute best thing to happen to rally, sim racing wise. You had the ultimate physics, the ultimate damage. You know, there's no compromises when it comes. I mean, I guess graphically there'd be some compromises, but I've seen some pretty impressive stuff out of BeamNG graphically. If you're using the proper textures and the proper techniques to get things to look convincing, I've seen it. So where was I? WRC license. I'm excited. I'm excited for what's coming next. There's quite a few companies that over the years, I believe, had just completely stopped making rally titles. It'd be nice to give like one of those studios that had experience another shot and see if they can just kind of like whip something up that just has never been done before, never been achieved before, like something super ambitious. My prediction is that, you know, WRC's probably gonna move in a direction like having a story mode, the nuances of rally. You know, there's been a lot of success in video series, even from WRC themselves. Like, I've been suggesting to them in their comment section for years, you guys need to produce content that really shows what WRC is. These new shows really kind of showcase, you know, these drivers, these teams, you know, who they are as people, like, and you get to kind of appreciate the inner workings of what rally is more so than you would if you're just racing. And every single racing game has made that mistake where you're not really connecting with the nuances of rally. You know, the most detailed you can get is your car setup. So I think that's the direction they're probably going to go, which may or may not be what I'm looking for in terms of like the amount of detail that I want from a rally game. There's talks about some of the developers from Richard Burns Rally coming out of the woodworks and making a spiritual successor to Richard Burns Rally. Maybe they're gonna finally listen to everyone and then employ someone from, you know, this team, you know, that focus on physics so much, and then give them some modern tools instead of like these old ass tools to maybe achieve the perfect rally game. You know, we need to look at this as a positive opportunity. It could be a really good thing. You know, a lot of people are sad about it. They're like, oh damn, Codemasters, they're the GOAT of rally. How could they have possibly lost the license or whatever? And obviously, it's all business. We knew it would happen at some point. They're not going to keep the license forever. I did expect them to keep it for longer. When I first read that, it was concerning. Like, oh no, like maybe they're not going to ever make another video game again because it's just hasn't been profitable for them or whatever. Like they haven't got what they wanted out of it. But it seems like they are kind of hinting that what's coming up next will be exciting and will be better. It's sad for Codemasters, it really is. You know, Codemasters is kind of like a shell of its former self. When they got bought out by EA, it almost seems like they knew that this was going to happen. I hope someone can correct me and say like, hey, that's not what happened, but it kind of makes sense though. Right after the very first attempt, it's over and never going to happen again. Kind of seems like that's what it was planned to be all along. Hey, if this doesn't work, you guys are going to be the F1 team from now on. Still a great game. Still a lot of fun. Not talking shit about it. I'm just saying that from a hardcore simulation aspect, it's nowhere near where it should have been. We're going to see something truly great. A fresh awakening for rally. You know, there's been a lot of questionable choices, making the cars like crazy expensive and make it to where less manufacturers can compete. Like all these things are not healthy for rally. So hopefully this is going to be a new awakening for rally. WRC is coming to America. You know, I think it's planned for next year or the year after that or something like that. When that happens, I'm taking time off of work and I'm going to it. I'm excited about it. Links are going to be in the description below for the Assetto Corsa, Legazpi, Gabiria, and pretty exciting to see that, honestly, in the Assetto Corsa game engine. Hopefully this video has sparked some hopefulness for the future, because a lot of people are kind of sad about it. I'm excited about it. Unfortunately, someone's tragedy can be someone else's treasure, and Codemaster's tragedy could be another team's absolute treasure. Maybe we're going to get a gem of a game. Have a good day. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.